Hello and welcome to Walsall United WFC.
Good evening and welcome to the weekly wrap-up show with me, Gareth Townsend. The WSL is back. I absolutely loved doing our Arsenal special last week with Marissa. I think it was a great show with a great guest. Really great to chat about one of the teams that's flying high in the country at the moment. But, the bread and butter is back. The WSL is back. The Championship has been back for a couple of weeks. And we're raring to go and we're ready to jump into this. It's been a great weekend of action. The tables are looking interesting in both leagues, and I'm excited to jump right in. First of all, what I want to talk about are the FA Cup semi-finals from a couple of weeks ago. So, didn't manage to touch on this last week, obviously because was recording with Marissa at the time of the Manchester City game, so obviously before the Arsenal game as well. And I think the two best teams in the country are in the final. Arsenal and Chelsea both coming out 3-0 winners over Brighton and Manchester City, respectively. I'll start by talking about the Manchester City versus Chelsea game. Game ended 3-0 to Chelsea, and goals coming from Erin Cuthbert, Melanie Loopholes, and Beth England in that game. The first goal from Erin Cuthbert, kind of cutting in and taking that shot and finding its way in the near post. Obviously, credit to Erin, it was a great shot. But you just feel as though Taib really should have got more on that. She managed to get a hand on it, but not enough, and the ball went in the back of the net. And I just feel, perhaps that was a little bit disappointing. She would have been disappointed to be kind of beaten from there as well. Then, kind of the second goal, ball comes out. There's Loopholes outside the box, takes a shot. There's bodies in the way, so potentially there's some benefit of the doubt there for Taib again. But you feel that she just could have got down maybe a bit quicker. Just get down, make that save, and at 1-0 City, still in the game. But at 2-0, it seems to have edged away from them as well. Then, City kind of just kept allowing Chelsea to come on, and Chelsea just kept creating chance after chance after chance after chance. Taib, made fair play to have made sort of 2 or 3 absolutely fantastic saves to stop the game getting away from City, kind of even early on in the first half. So, Chelsea looked good early on. City didn't really have any chances until later on, actually, when Ann-Katrin Berger produced a great save to tip a shot onto the bar from Jess Park. But then later on, Beth England scored the third and kind of sealed the deal, really, and sent Chelsea through to Wembley, where they faced either the winner of Brighton or Arsenal. We know now that is Arsenal. Again, coming out 3-0 winners against Brighton. In the first half, Brighton kind of defended really nicely, sat back, defended well, didn't really give Arsenal too many chances. I think Iwabuchi hit the post and Beth Mead hit the post as well in the first half, but managed to keep it 0-0 going into half time. And in these kind of games, you feel as though potentially anything can happen. You kind of wonder, if Brighton snatch a goal from somewhere, can they sit back? Can they defend that? Can they get themselves through to the final? We saw Bristol City in the final of the Conti Cup last season. We saw Leicester making the semi-finals of the Championship side, and teams upsets can happen in these cup competitions. West Ham made the FA Cup final not so long ago, but it wasn't to be. Pretty early on into the second half, some really good work from Beth Mead down the side to create the goal for Kim Little. yeah, she was able to get that goal, and me chipping in as well on the score sheet. So fantastic for Arsenal, and then Williamson from the corner, kind of rounding that out, 2 assists and a goal for Beth Mead. Again, we spoke about her with Marissa last week, and I kind of said that I've been wrong about Beth Mead. I think she's having a fantastic season, and actually she's now, going into this weekend's fixtures of WSL games. She was 2 off equaling Karen Carney's all-time record for assists in the WSL. So, she's closing in on that record, and you imagine at some point she will take that. And based on her form this season, that's been absolutely well deserved. I think last season maybe sort of dipped out of form. Spoke again about this with Marissa last week. So if you've not seen that show, do go and catch up. But said that there were some issues with me. She wasn't necessarily playing particularly well, but Jonas has come in and has really getting the best out of Beth. Whether she's playing through the middle, whether she's playing out wide, doesn't really matter. She's cutting in, she's making danger, she's scoring goals, she's getting assists, and I think at the moment the way Arsenal are playing, they're looking very good. FA Cup final comes on the weekend. It comes on the 5th of December, which is a Continental Cup weekend for the majority of sides. So no clashes, no rearranged fixtures for them. That comes, obviously they're not in Conti Cup action because they're in the Champions League group stages. They'll enter later on. So that's our FA Cup semi-finals. We have our final, 5th of December at Wembley, Chelsea versus Arsenal. And I'm excited to kind of see what happens there. Do Chelsea get their own back from the start of the season, where they kind of lost 3-2 and that 3 at the back didn't really work in that first game? Or do Arsenal just keep on winning? So far, the only side to stop them from doing so is Barcelona. So can Chelsea kind of become the second side to do that? Obviously, hoping that United manage to do that before then. But, let's see. The 2 best sides in the country are contesting the FA Cup final. And that, for any neutral fan, is sure to be fantastic. Obviously, Brighton and City will be disappointed not to be there themselves. But, I think on paper, the 2 best sides in the country are making up that FA Cup semi-final. So we'll leave that. That was last weekend. That's kind of been gone. We've moved into the WSL and a round of championship games since then. So let's move on and talk team of the week. Now, usually go through 2 teams of the week. We usually go through the WSL team of the week. We usually go through the FAWSL full-time team of the week. The latter one, at time of recording, is not out yet because the Coventry versus Bristol City game is either continuing at the moment or it's just finished. But yeah, the FAWSL full-time team of the week isn't out yet. That one includes championship players, so can't discuss that in too much depth because obviously the championship fixtures haven't finished yet at kind of time of recording. But I believe at halftime, Coventry were 1-0 up in that game against Bristol City. The WSL team of the week then was chosen by Siobhan Chamberlain. In goal, Walsh from Brighton had a good game in an important game for them against Everton. Had a back 4 of Georgia Stanway, which his performance we'll get onto later. Thought she played well, but some questionable challenges that she made. Percival and Harding from Spurs and Reading, respectively, from the centre half pairing, and then Maz Pacheco from Aston Villa in as the other fullback. A midfield 3 of Whelan, Little, and G. So that's Brighton, Arsenal, Chelsea, respectively. And a front 3 of Arsenal's Beth Mead, Deanna Rose of Reading, and Lauren Hemp from Manchester City. For me, there's no real questions from me on this. I would argue possibly that Kirsty Lavelle maybe deserves to be the goalkeeper, but when you kind of concede 4 goals, I don't think she was at fault for any of them, but she still conceded them. When you concede 4 goals, it's going to be difficult to kind of get that recognition. But credit to Walsh, she had a cracking game, and I think all of those players, deserve to be there. Percival kind of got the really late goal for Spurs. Little and Mead on the score sheet, both of them for Arsenal. G with a filthy delivery for Jesse Fleming to break the deadlock against Villa. Stanway looked pretty threatening all game. Hemp, everything that City did was kind of down that right-hand side. Rose getting the 2 goals. So, a really strong team of the week, I think. And, it's kind of good to see players from all teams getting the recognition that they absolutely deserve. And, it's a shame, also, we can't discuss the Championship players. There's some big results that took place this weekend, and some fantastic results for some teams, and obviously that league now is shaping up and looking really, really strong as well. So, like I say, it's a shame that we can't really discuss it in terms of a team of the week, but things are looking really good in both leagues. There's a competitive title fight in both, and the relegation battle looks to be kind of pretty scrappy, pretty good in both as well. Obviously, full time in the commentary game, but we'll discuss that later. That has come through sort of 10 minutes ago. So just as I started recording. So we will mention that kind of later on in the Championship wrap up. So let's jump into it. The WSL. We'll go through in the order in which games were played. So kicking us off on Saturday at Bankside Stadium in Walsall, Aston Villa 0, Chelsea 1. Aston Villa kind of came and looked to try and kind of almost do what they did against Arsenal, where they sat back, soaked up the pressure, and maybe kind of looked to try and get something on the counter. But the long ball tactic didn't really seem to work for me. I think if you're playing long ball against this Chelsea side, no matter who you've got up front, like Millie Strong is, there's a good chance that Millie Bright is going to be stronger than them. And obviously he's pretty tall as well, so can get ahead onto quite a lot of deliveries. So I just feel that maybe this kind of delivery wasn't quite the way to go with this. Although it did take a really world-class delivery from G to unlock that defence. Ball over the top, perfectly weighted for Jessie Fleming, who still kind of having a great time, winning the Olympics over the summer. Comes back and gets this goal, great delivery over the top from G, well controlled, and finished past Hannah Hampton to put Chelsea 1 up. Chelsea weren't their best. I feel like if Villa kind of really played as well as we've seen Villa play this season, then Chelsea not necessarily there for the taking with regards to a win, but you feel as though maybe something could have been got from that game. But I just I think Villa's and the way they approached it was maybe a little bit disappointing. I think Alicia Lehmann seems to be pretty isolated, didn't really have a huge amount of opportunities to just show how impressive she can be. I still think Wardy has kind of taken Villa up a level. They're playing really well now and playing some good football. But this week it was just, I don't know, it just didn't seem quite to kind of be the type of football that we wanted it to be, because I just feel maybe, like I say, that the long balls wasn't really working. And while Chelsea were there for the taking, Kirby and Kerr both kind of started on the bench and resting some players. So you kind of think that maybe with any week you want to kind of go and get at them and get into them, but it didn't happen. And Chelsea come away with the win, and they keep the pressure on Arsenal, and kind of let's see what happens on the Sunday kind of job. But that was the first fixture of the weekend. Second fixture came from Walton Hall Park, where Aileen Whelan gets the goal to give Brighton the win against Everton. So Jean-Luc Vasseur's first league game in charge of Everton ends in defeat at home. new managers come in, experienced, Champions League experience, and I think he knows that this job is going to be something more of a project than he's taken on before. Lyon were one of the best sides in the world at that point, definitely in Europe, arguably the world, and was able to kind of take them and achieve fantastic things with them. Feel now like Everton are a different type of project. They're not a side yet capable of winning trophies, and I think he understands that. And I think he knows that it's going to take some time, and I think with the start they've had, any aspirations they had this season of maybe troubling that top three are gone. So it's about kind of getting the best results that you can this year and pushing on from there. So this isn't how he would have wanted to start his WSL campaign with Everton. Obviously, the result midweek against Leicester in the Continental Cup was a good one, good win for them, and a good start overall. But he would have kind of been hoping to take something into the WSL, and he hasn't been able to do that. So, still looking for that first WSL win. Hopefully, it doesn't come next week, and we can kind of United compile some more misery onto him, and then we can kind of look. Maybe Everton will. Next week's going to be a really good barometer for them. Can they go up against the United with a new coach? Been there 7 games. Can he go and put some trouble there? Hope Powell has been at Reading for a couple of years now, and he's doing a fantastic job on a pretty small budget. So he's just constantly going out and grinding out results, and I think this is a prime example of where just going out and grinding out your result is super important. And Brighton this season are reaping the rewards. I think people kind of had them finishing mid-table, but I don't think kind of people had them or Spurs particularly potentially as high up as they are now. I know I didn't think Spurs would be this high. Obviously, we'll speak about them shortly. But yeah, Brighton, absolutely flying, whereas Everton struggling this season in the WSL. Obviously, there are teams kind of below them in table. Reading have overtaken them already, but Everton, it's not looking great for them. They're not where they want to be, and I think their season in terms of where their aspirations were in August and kind of where they are now, their season's pretty much done, which is going to be disappointing for them. Definitely. So that was Saturday, 2-1 nils, the away side winning in both. Fast forward to Sunday, and the early kickoff from the Hive Stadium was Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester United. Now, if you want like a proper match reaction video, please go and watch yesterday evening's show with John, Andy, and Matt, where they kind of where they went through the game and discussed kind of all the various talking points from that. They discussed Bo Ariza. They discussed whether it's right to be questioning Mark Skinner's tenureship at the moment. For me, I don't think it is. I wasn't on that show, so I'll kind of mention things now. I think it takes time to implement a system. He's a different manager from Casey. He's going to want to play in a different way to the way Casey played, and it's going to take time for him to implement that system and get the players playing and doing what he wants them to do. I think as well, the thing that kind of doesn't particularly go well for him is that none of those players are his. He's kind of come in and has had Casey's additions and hasn't really been able to make any of his own. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in January, but definitely next summer. Criticizing certain things. Are there certain players that are undroppable? Can we look at some of the substitutions? I mean, I'm not sure. Any of the substitutions were wrong yesterday, but we've got players like Bo Ariza. Should she be playing more? I mean, that's certainly a valid point that you can make, but there's points that we can make, but I do think it's probably a bit early to be questioning the premiership of a manager kind of 7 games into their tenure. The game, obviously, a game of 2 injury time goals. In the first half, didn't really seem to be an awful lot of chances for either side until Alessi Russo managed to kind of break into the box and a fantastic finish to smash the ball into the roof of the net and give United the lead just before half time. And you kind of think, let's go and kick on from here. But 95 minutes into the game, Percival's free kick, kind of missed everybody. Bounce took it away from Marion into the top corner, and Everton snatch a late equaliser. Now, I've heard from people who were at the game, unfortunately, couldn't make it, but I heard from people that were at the game that it wasn't necessarily a foul in their opinion. Heard people kind of maybe making some criticisms at Mark that we should have seen this game out earlier. I think these are, potentially valid points, but excuse me if you can hear the siren going past. These are, obviously, everyone's entitled to their opinions, everyone's entitled to criticise things they don't like, but it's not down to the manager to see these games out. I think it's down to the players, and the players on the pitch should be able to manage games. In the 95th minute, you should know, you should be able to not give the referee a decision to make. I think looking at the defending for the goal, I feel as though potentially Maria could have jumped for the header and maybe tried to get ahead on it. Seeing people kind of mention Mannion maybe not getting there. Again, another player that probably should have done better, but I feel when I kind of watched that, my first thought was, well, why is Maria not going for that? Why is she not jumping? Why is she not busting anything to get ahead on that? So, a disappointing result from a United perspective, but I think the main thing for me with Spurs this year has just been how difficult they are to break down. They're a side that have got some experience. They're a pretty solid WSL side now, and they're bringing young players through. But they're so difficult to break down. They're so difficult. They don't concede many, they don't score many. Not a side that really going to score more than 1 or 2 in a game. 1 is probably roughly what you're going to get from them, but they're just so difficult to break down. And I think when you know that you're not going to concede many goals, you know that you can sort of snatch something late on. I feel like that's going to be the mentality that Spurs had going into this game. If we can keep it tight, if we can keep it to 1 goal, we know United can score goals. Then we know they've got strength up top. Let's keep it tight at the back. Make it difficult for them. Let's limit their chances, and we can steal something. And I feel like that is going to be kind of exactly what they did. And I feel like they kept it strong, they kept it solid, they kept it tight. They made it difficult to break down, difficult to find spacing behind them, and we kind of suffered for that at the end. So obviously the result is disappointing. Obviously, you never want to be kind of dropping points against sides that you feel are below you, especially a side that you've never lost against. We've never lost against Spurs, so you kind of feel as though we should be getting that win. And fans and players at the end saying it felt like 2 points dropped. I'd agree with that. I'd agree that maybe United in 95 minutes into a game when you 1-0 up, you should be winning that game. But credit to Spurs, they're difficult to break down, and they've shown this season that they've got grit, they've got determination, they've got that drive and desire to never give up. I think there are other teams that kind of really do with that as well. Next, we'll move to St Andrews, where Birmingham held out for the first half against Reading, 0-0. Looking at half time like maybe snatching a point and kind of doubling their points tally for the season after getting a draw at West Ham, but it wasn't to be. And Dowie from a corner early on in the second half gave Reading the lead. And then Deanna Rose as well getting 2 goals in the 54th and 71st minute, really to seal that win for them, and that moves Reading now, I believe, ahead of Everton in the table. They're starting to find their feet. Had a difficult start. We've said many times that they lost some very good players last season. Lost Angarad. Jess Fishlock came on loan. She went back. Lost Farrah Williams. That's a loss that really cannot be understated. And they struggled at the start of this season. And they just seem to starting to find their feet and picking up some points. They've now sort of 6 points and 5 points now clear of Birmingham, obviously 6 points clear of the bottom, with Leicester losing to Man City this weekend. But it was a great result for Reading, and Deanna Rose, showed a couple of good headers, a good header for the first goal, and then another good finish for the second, and they get that win, and it's a really valuable win for them. It really does change the table when there's only 22 games in the season, and teams around the bottom have got 0, 1, 3 points. Getting that win can really, really change it. I think it's going to be those games for Birmingham this season against the likes of Reading, of Everton, of Leicester, that are going to really kind of dictate where their season goes. Obviously, Birmingham have lost to both Reading and to Everton, and the Leicester game is a while away, but that'll be one that they're definitely kind of looking at, thinking, this is must win, and that's going to be from both sides of that ground. So let's move on to Leicester then. The King Power, they took the lead actually. Took the lead pretty early on through Jess Sigsworth. Was able to kind of get in and force Taib to make a save when she didn't, and Leicester took the lead. Thought after a minute or so this is going to be a really long time to try and hold out. If they sit back and try and kind of take the 1-0 win, then it's going to be a very, very long time to hold out against the City side, which are better than their league position would dictate. Still think even with the injuries, you've got a very strong side. Stanway isn't a right back, would usually be bronze in that position, but she had a great game. She had a fantastic game, kind of defensively, offensively. I still think there were elements of Georgia Stanway coming through that we don't want to come through. Some pretty rash challenges, an elbow to Siggy pretty early on. A pretty horrible challenge on Sam Tierney. You could hear pick that up and kind of hear seeing Sam kind of smacking the ground. So he looked in some discomfort. Kind of from some things I've seen, you can kind of hear her as well. So obviously, really, really kind of difficult for that. It's just difficult. I'm not. People say that Stanway's not that type of player, and fair enough, she may not be. But she's just back from a 3-game ban for kind of going in late with the studs up and clattering into a player, and to go and do that in the first game back, there's something not quite right. So I know she's not a defender, but defending like that, there's no kind of excuse for it. But she played well. Other than that kind of those couple of moments, she attacked really well, looked to get forward. At times, actually, kind of making it look as though they went to a back 3 because she was just so much further up the pitch than Demi Stokes. But yes, so Stanway played well. I think the rest of the back line have a great deal to do. Jill Scott wasn't excellent, but was kind of good enough and economical enough to kind of get through the game and keep it tight. Greenwood and Stokes didn't really have a huge amount to do. The midfield, I think here at the first, so that was kind of the opening game, the opening goal for that game, Siggy. And then, thinking, okay, if Leicester can kind of hold out to half time, potentially something can happen here, but wasn't to be. Ball kind of bounced around the box before Caroline Weir smashed a rocket into the back of the net. Blocks had gone in on the line. Been some fantastic saves from Kirsty Lavelle before then as well, but no saving that. Absolute rocket. Maybe Leicester had chances to get the ball cleared beforehand, probably did, but there were players on the floor having just made fantastic blocks. And then the second goal was an absolute rocket from Kira Walsh, potentially a heavy touch in defence from Harry McManus. But I'm not sure. I think that's a bit harsh. It was just it was a sweet strike from Kira Walsh. Nobody was saving. You don't look at Walsh and think, okay, well, she's going to absolutely smash this. It's going to go top corner. It's the kind of goal you generally will see Caroline Weir score. Not so much Kira Walsh, but yeah, an absolute rocket to give them the lead back again. And you get into half time. It's 2-1 down. You've had the lead and it's difficult. Second half, made some changes. Made some changes actually after sort of 30 odd minutes, or changing Georgia Brome for Sophie Howard at right back because Lauren Hemp was causing a lot of issues. But again, I think City's best player by a mile, Lauren Hemp. And the third and fourth goal came from individual errors, just allowing Hemp so much space outside, meant that she kind of got in the box, and there was only going to be one outcome. And then a heavy touch for the fourth allowed Coombs to seal the game. And I don't think it was necessarily a 4-1 game. I feel like Leicester were kind of in it, and had some chances. Tasha Flint kind of got through, and I felt needed to pull the trigger a bit quicker. But yeah, I think it didn't really trouble Taib enough. But 4-1 seems a little bit harsh. 2-1, 3-1 probably about right. But 4-1 seems a little bit too much. But credit to City. Credit to Manchester City. They scored the goals, they took the chances, and they won the game after going 1-0 down. So, more power to them. Like I say, I think that people kind of questioning Gareth Taylor. I think the start under him very similar to Cushing's first sort of 50 or so games. And I think Taylor, this season has struggled with injuries, but he is starting to get his players back. Obviously, Kennedy was on the bench, Rasso was on the bench, Vicky Losada back on the bench as well. So yeah, these players are starting to come back through. Obviously, we'll really want players like Roebuck and Horton and Bronze to be back whenever they're back ready. But yeah, when City have got those players back, I still think they're the favourites for third. Their squad is just too strong. But we'll see. Third place spot, all is to play for, and it is wide open. And the final game of the weekend, then Arsenal 4, West Ham 0. Kim Little with the first 2 goals to bring up her 50th WSL goal. Beth Mead getting her goal and an own goal from Grace Fisk to seal out the 4-0 win. There's not a lot to say really about Arsenal that I didn't say at the start of the show or last week. They're just one of these stronger sides in the division. And, every time they play, they just look good. West Ham, we kind of thought would struggle, but have kind of been achieving some really good stuff this year. But just made to look like, I don't know, a relegation candidate again by this Arsenal side. So, excuse me, I think Arsenal, I've said before, they're still my favourites to win the title. And I'm just happy to see someone giving Chelsea a run for their money, and it's not Man City. So, I can kind of watch this title race unfold as a neutral. And I think they're a class above them and Chelsea, Arsenal and Chelsea, a class above United at the moment. I think even City are a much stronger side than we are. And third, you think you've got to hope it's on, you've got to go for it, because obviously the start that City have had, but in terms of where we rank in terms of strength and depth in squad, definitely fourth best. I think we're pretty comfortably the fourth best squad in that division. We just need to kind of start getting those results. So we'll go through then the WSL table. Arsenal top on 18 points, have won their first 6 games. Chelsea then on 15. And in third place, that next Champions League spot so far is Spurs on 13 points. Brighton then sit fourth on 12, 1 point behind Spurs. Manchester United on 11 points in fifth, so 2 points off that spot. Can easily be fixed next week against Everton. A good strong win there. Spurs go to Arsenal, and that 2 point gap can easily be overturned. So let's not kind of get carried away. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater yet. Want a good result next week against Everton, and if Arsenal beat Spurs, and you kind of look at that Arsenal squad and think they definitely should be. We could be looking at going into the top 3, depending on what Brighton do. Obviously, Arsenal versus Spurs is on Saturday, so we will know the outcome of that before we play. Then there is a bunch of sides pretty close. You've got West Ham in 6th on 8 points. Manchester City and Aston Villa 7th and 8th respectively on 7 points. Reading and Everton 9th and 10th on 6 points. Birmingham down in 11th on 1, and Leicester yet to pick up a point this season. They are on 0. I still feel that Leicester, once they kind of get that win, once they get that result, then other results will follow. I still think that Birmingham are going to be the favourites to go down. I think if you look, Birmingham scored twice all season. Obviously, one of those was in the game that they got the point against West Ham. Leicester scored 3. Obviously, that goal from Sigsworth, her first for the club, was their 3rd goal of the season. I think Leicester fans now will be kind of happy to take 11th. They may have had higher ambitions at the start of the season, but at the end of the day, the important thing is to come in and stay in the division. And I still think they've got a good enough squad to do that. We'll go through the Championship fixtures now. Then some very, very good results here in the Championship. Starting off, the majority of these are played on Sunday afternoon. Start off with possibly the biggest shock of the weekend, with Crystal Palace at Hayes Lane running out 3-1 winners over Durham, taking a lead 2-0 taking a 2-0 lead inside 20 minutes. Durham got a goal back late on after 81 minutes through Saliki, but Millie Farrow in stoppage time, 94 minutes in, was able to seal the win for Palace. Obviously a fantastic result for them to kind of stay up and around the top of the table. Durham will be disappointed with that. Durham will have kind of gone to that game looking to get a result and kick on in their title hopes, but it's not happened. So they will be disappointed there. Liverpool were held at Prenton Park by Blackburn. Again, they'll be disappointed, having seen that Durham have lost, to not be able to pick up all 3 points and capitalise on that will be disappointing for Liverpool. And Matt Beard, he will have been looking really to bring Liverpool up in his first full season in charge. He's going to want to come up, and Liverpool will feel that they deserve to be in WSL. And you've got to look and think, well, that was a fantastic game for them to take advantage. One side that did take advantage was London City. They got a 2-0 win against Sunderland. Gareth and Jarrett, one scoring early, one scoring late, to get all 3 points in that game and keep the pressure on Liverpool and Durham. Going kind of into the mid-table now, that kind of Charlton in and around the edge of that top bracket, Sheffield kind of in that mid-table. They played out a 0-0 draw. Neither side able to kind of break the deadlock, neither side able to capitalise and get some points, and they took a share of the spoils. Perhaps the best result for the weekend was Watford picking up their first win They went 1-0 down against Lewis. Aisi scored very early on, but a penalty after 10 minutes for Beckett gave Watford hope before kind of late on through Bell being able to get a 2-1 lead and then play out their first win of the season and take them off the foot of the table. Going into Monday, Coventry sat bottom. They knew that obviously a win would take them back ahead of Watford. Anything less than that, and they would be spending time at the foot of the table. They were able to take the lead through Rio Hardy with a fantastic finish just before half time to kind of go in 1-0 up. But late on, Harrison for Bristol City was able to claw one back and ensure that kind of Bristol salvage a point from Butts Park Arena, and Coventry United are struggling. So to go through the table there, Durham sits top on 18 points, Liverpool second on 17, and London City third on 16. It's looking really close at the top of the Championship. Again, only one side is coming up. Liverpool have only lost once this season. That was on the opening day to London City, unbeaten since then. Whereas Durham have kind of lost twice. So they're the top three. Then got Charlton in fourth on 13 points, Palace in fifth on 12, and then we have Bristol City, Sheffield, Sunderland in sixth, seventh, eighth, respectively, all on 11 points. Very, very close. From fourth right down to eighth, separated by 2 points. So one win and everything can change. Blackburn and Lewis sit ninth and 10th on 10 points each. So, you're looking at fourth down to 10th, separated by 3 points. Watford move off the bottom, as I said, with obviously a draw last week, getting their first point, and a win this week, getting their first win, moves them off the foot of the table, which is now occupied by Coventry, who, having picked up a point on Monday to go with their point from earlier on in the year, they are still looking for that first win. Are they suffering from bringing in too many players? Only time will tell. But yeah, they're sitting bottom of the table at the moment. So let's kind of look at some stats then. Leanne Kearn and Lucy Watson both flying, 5 goals and 8 appearances for them. And then we have the kind of combinations of Harrison, Heppel, Jarrett, and Rio Hardy on 4 goals. And then Rutherford, Follis, Palmer, and Courtney Sweetman Kirk are on 3 goals apiece. That's for the Championship. If we look at the kind of the stats from the WSL, Kim Little is the top goal scorer on 6 goals. Sam Kerr second with 5. Mead and Miedemar on 4 apiece. We then have Russo, Kirby, McCabe, and Pernille Harder on 3 each, and then England and Walker with 2 apiece. Like I said to Marissa, the interesting thing there's a lot of Arsenal players. Last season really relied on Miedemar, but now you've got Little chipping in, Mead chipping in, McCabe is chipping in with goals from fullback as well. They no longer rely on Vivian Miedemar, and they seem to be reaping the rewards for that. So that's going to be it for the show this week, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my rundown of all the fixtures and the comments that I've had for each of them. I think it's been an interesting weekend, and looking ahead next weekend, we, like I say, everything can move around. Arsenal could lose their first game of the year against Spurs. Spurs could drop out the top 3 if Arsenal beat them, and United get a good result against Everton. Are Brighton going to end next weekend inside the top 3? And to round it all off, the Women's FA Cup first round proper is next week. There was no National League action this weekend, just gone. But moving on to next week, it is FA Cup time. So be sure next week to tune in for a roundup of that from our local sides up in the Northwest and kind of around the Midlands as well. I'm sure John, Connor, and Rob will kind of be keeping an eye on their local sides for Stourbridge and Stoke if they're still in the FA Cup. So, tune in next week. Thank you, everybody, and I hope everyone has a fantastic week.